Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Another piece of hardware has been put on the line for the Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce fight on April the 11th in London, with the EBU title up for grabs. It's currently vacant, but I am a little surprised, and I'll come to that a little bit later in this video, because Joe Joyce walked away from an ordered fight. This was at the same time that he was almost signing to fight Daniel Dubois. Also in this video, Joe Joyce sparring a New Zealand prospect, and Joe Joyce stepping up his trash talk online. We'll come to that. But first, you can see here on screen, so this is a post from Daniel Dubois. Frank Warren's also done it on his social media. European title on the line for Dubois Joyce. The EBU have determined that the prestigious EBU European heavyweight title will be on the line on April 11 when Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce collide. And Daniel Dubois says #everybelt in response to that. So I'll just get to the article on frankwarren.com. So we'll skip straight to Frank Warren's quotes here. So he says, "The EBU sanctioning the fight for the vacant title is the cherry on the cake," said the Hall of Fame man who is currently in Las Vegas with Tyson Fury. "They have recognized the magnitude of the fight, the fact it is between two unbeaten fighters who are the best two up-and-coming heavyweight forces in world boxing. I am particularly pleased for Joe, given that his European shot didn't happen in January, while for Daniel it nicely continues the every belt journey we have set him on. Daniel versus Joe is a fight that you simply cannot afford to miss." And up here it says that the last holder of the EBU title was Tyson Fury, and that was when he beat Derek Chisora for it in November 2014, and it lists others who have held it: Henry Akinwande, Lennox Lewis, Derek Williams, Frank Bruno, John L. Gardner, Joe Bugner, Henry Cooper are amongst the other British fighters to have held the heavyweight belt. Above it here, it sort of details a little bit of how it's come to be on the line, but it is missing some key context in my view. So it says that Joyce was originally mandated to fight Marco Huck for the coveted belt in January before the Berlin man succumbed to injury. The pair were set to fight following the vacating of the belts by Ajit Kabayel. And Kabayel had been ordered to face Joe Joyce, but he vacated the belt, went to America and signed his new deal with ESPN and Top Rank. Then it says the EBU determined that Dubois Joyce, the two rising stars of World Heavyweight Division, will fight for the European honour. So I'm not sure what's happened behind the scenes here, but there is more going on than sort of what's being presented here, because in the days before that this fight was confirmed, and we were hearing at the same time that Joe Joyce had signed his end of the deal, the EBU actually ordered Joe Joyce to face Filip Hrgović for the vacant title. So that was in the background as this fight was getting sort of over the line. And I'm surprised that it's now on the line for these two, given Joe Joyce walked away from the ordered shot that he was meant to have against Filip Hrgović. So it would have made more sense to me, given what normally happens and sort of some of what's happened in the past year or two, with Kabayel, Wallen being mandatories and holding on the belt and other bits and pieces that have gone on, that it would have been put up and Filip Hrgović would have been fighting someone yet to be determined, because anyone who walks away from the ordered title shot, you would think they might be out of the picture. But to me, that this suggests that there's been some heavy lobbying, and given that Frank Warren has been trying to have this whole every belt theme for Daniel Dubois, clearly they've put the pressure on the EBU. You need to make this fight. So I don't know how Filip Hrgović and his people feel about that he's no longer in the frame to fight for the title, because that could have been a good thing for him marketing and promotional wise. But it's on the line here, and overall, do I really care too much? Not really, but it's just a little quizzical about what's actually gone on here. But what they're saying here is that there's going to be the European, which is this title, the WBC Silver, which Dubois holds, the WBO International, which Dubois holds, along with the British and Commonwealth titles riding on it. And Joyce, he holds the WBA Gold title. It's not clear if that's on the line, because that's not really discussed here, but Dubois holds all the other belts that are mentioned. So yeah, interesting that the EBU title is on the line here and the circumstances of how that's come to be. But one of these two guys will be the European champion after this fight, and obviously holding these myriad of other, straps from different organizations and other bits and pieces. But in terms of Joe Joyce, moving on here, so Mike Coppinger, He says, explosive sparring session between Joe Joyce and Patrick Mailata at Jorge Linares' gym in Las Vegas. Bombs away between the big men. It got just a tad out of hand. Joyce's second day of sparring in preparation for the big April 11 heavyweight showdown with Daniel Dubois. And here's a couple of pictures that Mike Coppinger has posted. Patrick Mailata here, Joyce on the right of screen. Here is another shot. Joyce obviously throwing something, Mailata covering up. And if you don't know, Patrick Mailata is a New Zealand prospect. He's only got a few fights under his belt at the moment. He's actually got a promotional deal with, I believe it is Ivalo Gotsev. He is the co-promoter to Kubrat Pulev. But Mailata he's actually looking in pretty decent shape here, considering he's a guy that has been weighing in around 285, 290 for his first few fights as a professional. But he is looking in better condition. If I was to say that of the top 5 New Zealand heavyweights at the moment, because there's really 5 notable ones, and then it's kind of a bit of a drop down. Perhaps it's maybe 4 and then another one, then a drop. But it's Joseph Parker, Hemi Ahio, Junior Fa, and then also Toa Lutele. And you can make a case that Patrick Mailata, based on his talent levels, is probably going to advance to perhaps the number 2 spot in the next couple of years. At the moment, number 2 and number 3, Fa and Ahio, they train out of the City Kickboxing Gym in Auckland, New Zealand. That's also where some UFC fighters train, like Israel Adesanya. But those two are sort of competing for number 2 and number 3, but I think Patrick Mailata, because he moves really well, he's got good power, but the question about him has been conditioning and his overall weight. But obviously he's been giving Joe Joyce some good rounds here, and Joyce needs to have some tough, hard sparring, because he's going to get that when he fights Daniel Dubois on April the 11th in London. I'll be interested to know who else they are working with, but in Las Vegas, a number of fighters obviously train and prepare themselves there. I'm sure there's no shortage of sparring partners on offer for Joe Joyce. And rounding out this video, Joyce has been stepping up his troll game of Daniel Dubois, and this is a photo that has actually appeared before. You can see here on screen. So Joyce says Triple D, and people have posted this before, and it's been made out to look like that it's come from Daniel Dubois, with him saying, "Stop tagging me in this stuff." But yeah, Joe Joyce stepping up his troll game of Daniel Dubois. So what do you make of it all? What do you make of this picture that Joyce has posted? What do you make of the sparring with Patrick Mailata and the EBU title being on the line? I was a little surprised, but it is what it is. Every belt and all that, as Frank Warren is going for. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.